Chapter 21. Divine Realms. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Colt felt disorientated as bright lights seemed to flash past him. Welcome to the Divine Realms. Starting territory. Valheim City, congratulations. You have received a new divine spell, skill received. Divine, Avatar, cost. 3 DP per hour, description. Create a solid construct of yourself in the mortal realms to interact with the world. Your construct can descend in any shrine or temple that worships you. Please use it in a safe location as your main body in the divine realms can still be harmed. Your HP and DP has been fully regenerated. Colt did not even get the chance to fully digest the notifications that bombarded him before he felt his feet connect with solid ground. The lights that were blinding him gradually faded away to reveal that he was standing on a white stone circle with marble columns around its circumference at regular intervals. Colt glanced around in wonder as he realized that the structure was situated in the center of a city square. The buildings were gorgeous to look at as if they were something straight out of ancient mythology. Marble seemed to be the primary material used to create this city, but the architecture was lined with solid gold bricks to really make the corners and hard lines pop. As Colt stood there in wonder, he realized that something was off. Where are the people? Valheim was entirely silent. No players were walking around, or at least as far as he could see, neither did it look like there were any NPCs here. Colt's eyebrows took a dip into a frown as he glanced around more warily this time. However, there were no sounds at all. Which is why Colt jumped in surprise at what happened next. Ding! Your oracle, Anya Iraldson, is attempting to connect with you. Do you want to activate oracle? Damn! With everything that was happening, I completely forgot about her. Colt slapped his own face in embarrassment before agreeing to the notification. Lord Exile. Where are you? Are you okay? I'm fine, Anya, don't worry. Colt quickly tried to calm her down. Her voice sounded distressed through the mental link that the oracle skill created. How do I explain what's happened? Colt paused for a moment to collect his thoughts. He had to tell her something, but would it sound believable? Colt cleared his throat as he thought about a plausible explanation before putting on his best God-sounding voice. The time I could spend in the mortal realms ran out, and I had to return to the heavens. Colt naturally cringed inside, but it was worth it if it put Anya at ease. Oh. When will you be coming back? I don't know. I have some business to attend to here for a while, but I'll certainly be sure to keep an eye on you. Colt lied through his teeth. Although gods were meant to be able to see everything, he doubted that it would be a feature hidden in the game somewhere. I'll be sure to have the temple ready for you by then. Thank you. Before Colt could reply, the connection was cut off on Anya's side. He got the distinct feeling that he could forcefully connect with her, but he saw no point in doing so right now. It would only make the conversation even more awkward than it already had been. She seemed worried by my absence. Hopefully, she doesn't do anything stupid until I can figure things out. Colt sighed as he shook his head and glanced around at the buildings again. I may as well explore a little and see what the deal is. Colt walked up to the first building he noticed that had a door. When he tried to open it, the door would not budge even an inch. This building is currently unowned. Purchase price. 50,000 gold. Insufficient funds detected. So you can own property in this game. That's interesting but hardly a new idea. Colt tried a few more doors but got roughly the same answer every time. This building is currently unowned. Purchase price. 70,000 gold. Insufficient funds detected. This building is currently unowned. Purchase price. 50,000 gold. Insufficient funds detected. This building is currently unowned. Purchase price. 140,000 gold. Insufficient funds detected. Is there even anything to do here? Colt could not help but wonder as he was rejected once again. The city of Valheim was massive. It would take him at least half an hour to walk to the walls that he could see in the distance. However, at the moment, he could not see any means of traveling quickly through the streets. Screw it. I'll just need to take my chances outside. This place makes me feel like it's supposed to be run by players, so I doubt there's any NPCs around. With that thought in mind, he began the long journey to Valheim's walls. After around 10 minutes of running, one golden beam after another landed on the city square at regular intervals. However, Colt was so focused on the walls in front of him that he failed to notice the phenomenon happening behind him. Yo! Beans! How you doing? You got invited to. A player known as Donna the Great called out. Hey, Donna! You know it. Beans and Toa's T replied with an excited shout as she swept her short brown hair back. What do you think of the game so far? What's there to say? It's kind of cool, but it took so long to find the NPCs. Donna complained as she recalled the journey she had been through. It's not very player-friendly either. There's a distinct lack of direction. Oh, right. Do you know what this authority stat is for yet? No clue, I focused on strength and endurance. You know my style. Beans replied as they both burst out into laughter. The square was starting to get lively as small groups started gathering to work together. I hear you. Speed and endurance for me. Going for that evasive tank style, you know. Hey, you want to party up? It's getting crowded around here, and there doesn't seem like there's anything to do. Sure. It'll be just like old times. God, I can't wait till they let us stream this game. My channel has been dying lately. There haven't been any good game releases for a while. Beans and Toa's T glanced around before she spotted the walls in the distance. Since we've got here so early, what do you think of getting a look outside of the city before anyone else? Chapter 22. First Mob. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Colt stared at the impressive marble gates of Valheim as he passed through them. They certainly gave off the feeling of belonging to the heavens with the grooves that had been carved into them. Although, he did feel like the place was more than a little eerie. However, that was due to the lack of people. There were no guards at the gates, and they lay wide open. There was nothing stopping anyone or anything from just wandering into the city whenever they felt like it. Is the city a safe area, or can fights happen inside? That was Colt's biggest question right now. It was a vital piece of information that could prove to be helpful in the future. However, he would not gain the answer to that question until more players arrived in the city and somebody decided to start something. The area beyond the gates was full of soft rolling hills covered in a white blanket of snow with a looming mountainous landscape in the background. Colt was pleased to see giant wolves lazily lounging around in the snow. His gamer instincts kicked in as he had finally spotted some mobs to grind EXP. He began to run towards them before he suddenly slid to a stop. Wait. There's no experience bar. Colt had just remembered this fact as he stared at the mobs with evident confusion. So what's the point of having mobs then? Materials. Drops. Colt stared at the wolves warily as he tried to figure out what their purpose was. I can only test the waters for now. Hopefully, I can get something good out of it. Colt eyed the nearest pack and found one of them lying at a reasonable distance from the rest. If he was lucky enough, it might turn out to be outside of the aggro range of the others. Colt moved around the pack to place himself closer to the isolated one. He was relieved to see that none of them appeared to react to his presence. Colt steadily approached his target from its rear, but it soon noticed him. Its large head glanced up from between its front legs as it shifted its position to stare at him curiously. Colt froze for a moment as he realized the wolf would stand at the same height as himself once it stood up. He had been tricked into thinking that they were smaller due to the distance and their body positions. Damn it! That thing is massive. Colt stared at the wolf as he calmed his mind. I can't sneak up on it, so I'll just have to go for it. Colt sprinted forward, and the wolf growled once he came within what it considered to be its area. The wolf did not wait for him to attack. Instead, it rose from its position and leapt towards him instead. Colt grit his teeth as the wolf flew towards him and widened his stance to absorb the blow. His shield appeared on his left arm while his hand gripped the handle of his axe when it manifested. Colt was pushed back by a few steps as the wolf collided with his shield. His mind quickly digested the system notifications that followed. You have been attacked by Divine Wolf Pup, Runt, Divine Power Damage Check. Enemy Speed 5. Endurance of Area Struck 5. Divine Power is tied. 1 HP. Colt's eyes went wide when he realized the creature in front of him was only a pup. Not only that, but it was considered the runt of the group. So how big would the adults be then? Unfortunately, the wolf had knocked him back enough to remain out of reach of a possible counter. Strike. The pair began to circle each other as they searched for an opening. Colt noticed that the other 5 wolves nearby seemed to watch their fight with some interest. However, they did not seem to have any intentions of interfering. Is it because it's the runt? Or because we're out of range to trigger combat? Colt wanted to understand the mechanics of the game as soon as possible. However, for now, he was grateful that he could test himself in a one-on-one. The wolf noticed his moment of distraction and charged in once again. However, Colt was ready for it this time and stepped outside of its attack range before slashing at the wolf's flank as it passed by. Colt frowned as no notification popped up, and the wolf appeared unharmed. A similar situation had happened before. That was when the player's silky hair had shot his shield with an arrow. As he thought about that, he realized that he never received a notification if his defense outclassed his opponent's offense. So it would make sense if it worked the other way around as well, right? Going on that logic, he deduced that the wolf's endurance had to be at 3 at least. Since if it was 2, then they would tie, and it would still take damage. That knowledge left Colt feeling rather grim. He frowned as he thought about how to go about winning the fight. The wolf lunged again, and this time when Colt avoided it, he slammed the rim of his shield on the side of the wolf's snout, making it yelp painfully in the process. BNOL.M, Divine Power Damage Check. Enemy Endurance 3. Your Endurance 5. Your Divine Power is superior. You have dealt 0.3 HP. Colt smiled briefly now that he had confirmed that he could injure the wolf. I can't see a health bar, but if its endurance works the same way as a player's, then it should have 12/15 HP left. Okay, I just need to pull that off 4 more times to end this. Should be easy enough. Colt waited for the wolf to attack again, but it seemed like it had become warier of him. Colt remained patient as they stared each other down. Eventually, the wolf could not take it anymore and pounced towards Colt once again. Colt performed his evasive maneuver again only to curse midway through. He could have sworn the wolf was smiling at him as it landed just in front of him instead of passing him by. Colt was off balance as he stared at a vast furry paw swiping at him. Chapter 23. First Drop. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The paw landed on Colt's shield, doing no damage but opening him up for the wolf's next attack. As Colt tried to recover his balance, the wolf charged at him, striking his body on the way past. Divine Power Damage Check. Enemy Speed 5. Endurance of Area Struck 4. Your Divine Power is inferior. 0.2 HP. Colt groaned as he finally regained his balance and turned to face the wolf, who seemed to be mocking him with its gaze. Okay, looks like the mobs are pretty intelligent. I can't take them lightly. Colt's eyes narrowed as he began to think of how to maximize his damage output with each exchange. Colt braced himself and began to edge towards the beast, which caught it unawares. The wolf sniffed at the air as if trying to sense what he was up to, but to no avail. The closer that Colt got to it, the louder it growled. Colt could even smell the stretch of raw meat on its breath as he reached a distance that would allow him to launch an attack. Colt leapt forward suddenly and smashed the wolf's snout with his shield, causing it to lower its head slightly. As soon as his feet touched the ground, Colt delivered a blow towards the wolf's eye with his axe. You have dealt 0.3 HP, divine power damage check. Your strength 2. Enemy endurance of area struck 1. You have dealt 0.2 HP, Colt grinned as the information was fed into his mind. He had estimated the wolf to have 12/15 HP after the first time he had damaged it. So now it should only have 7/15 HP left. He was especially pleased to see that his guess about mobs having weak spots was correct as well. Which led him to attack the wolf's eye. So fur, scales, and the like probably have the highest endurance rating on a mob. As if it were their armor. The key to a good DPS will be discovering their weak points and exploiting them. Colt nodded. This might sound like common sense, but very few games actually implemented it. So no matter where you hit the mobs, you would do the same damage. It was only if the mobs had a weakness to a specific type of damage that you could increase your DPS in most games. Colt felt much more positive after confirming that. The beast attempted to raise its head to snarl at Colt, but he delivered another shield bash to its snout, which seemed to stun it. You have dealt 0.3 HP, Colt grinned savagely and swiftly delivered 2 more blows to the wolf with his shield, keeping it in a stun lock in the process. The wolf died rather pitifully under that abuse. Its enormous body fell to the ground before disappearing in motes of light. New milestone unlocked, Wolf Slayer. 1 out of 10, A new milestone. Colt pondered for a moment, then had a thought. When my follower count met new milestones, I received a stat point. So is this how we're supposed to level up then? Colt felt that there was a good chance that he was right. Meaning that players would have to explore and find new ways to level up. After all, these milestones most likely had caps to them. Colt thought it was a rather clever idea. It would stop higher-level players grinding in the more accessible areas for levels. Meaning that the lower levels would not have to compete for scraps. His attention was soon dragged away from these thoughts by 2 soft lights that briefly appeared in the snow. Colt grinned as 2 items lay on the snow in its place. One looked like a piece of folded-up fur, and the other looked like one of the wolf's fangs. Before he moved to retrieve them, he warily eyed the remaining 5 wolves who watched him lazily. Seems like I'm still safe. Colt thought as he cocked an eyebrow. Colt touched the wolf fang first, and a notification popped up. Item. Wolf fang, type. Common, base strength requirement to collect. 1. The wolf fang disappeared into Colt's inventory as he read through the information. However, he was now troubled by the piece of information that there were limits set on collecting his loot. Colt quickly checked his stat page and sighed dejectedly. Name. Exile, title. God of the Hearth, race. Local deity, human, tier. 0, level. 2, HP 22/25, DP. 3/3, strength. 1, +1, endurance. 3, +2, speed. 3, authority. 3, his base strength was only valued at 1. Which meant he would have a hard time collecting any decent materials he came across. Luckily, I'm still in what seems to be a low-level area. Colt moved his hand over the fur to collect it as well. Item. Wolf fur, type. Common, base strength requirement to collect. 3. Colt cursed loudly when he saw he did not meet the requirements to collect this item. He had a feeling that these items gained from the wolf could possibly be used as crafting materials. When Colt exited the information of the wolf fur without collecting it, the object disappeared. As though it understood that nobody could collect it. I guess I need to start putting some points into strength. Colt eyed the other wolves again and smiled. At least there's plenty of wolves, and nobody else is here yet. Colt started to walk towards the other 5 nearby with a broad grin on his face. However, as he got closer, all 5 of them lifted their heads and snarled at him. Okay, so these ones will probably fight together. With their speed, I won't be able to outrun them if things start to look bad. I should pick out the ones who have been isolated frothier packs. Colt's gaze swept the snow-covered hills and spotted several that fit the bill. However, he would have to carefully avoid a few packs that were close together. I guess it's time to start grinding then. Chapter 24. Butting in. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Colt steadily decimated any isolated wolves that he could find. As he got used to how the wolves could react, he eventually reached the point where it became rare that they managed to injure him. He had used Minor Blessing on himself at one point and had only received 2 points of damage since then. Colt delivered the final blow to the battered Divine Wolf Pup, Runt, in front of him. Milestone reached. Milestone updated, Wolf Slayer. 10/20ths, you have received +1 stat point. Colt grinned at the notification as he collected the wolf fang drop as the wolf fur disappeared yet again. So far, he had collected 6 wolf fangs, including this one. The drops were not guaranteed, and 2 wolves had not dropped anything at all. Colt opened the interface to look at his stat allocations. Without any hesitation, he sunk his free point into strength. Colt suddenly felt as if his body had become stronger, but he knew that it was just how the game was programmed to be. Do I keep grinding? Or should I head back to Valheim? Colt was growing concerned because he had noticed that neither his HP nor DP regenerated over time, even here in the Divine Realm. That was bound to become a problem later on, so he hoped that the city had to be hiding a method to recover. Finding that method as soon as possible would be important. However, Valheim was ridiculously large, and it would take him too long to find it on his own. Forget it. Colt sighed as he glanced around. It would be a shame to waste my head start looking for something that might not exist. Just as he was eyeing up the wolf packs to find his next victim, he heard the sound of voices. Colt grinned because he knew what this meant due to the distinct lack of NPCs. Players. Colt decided to take a break from his solo hunt and check out how these other players were doing. From the sound of their voices, they were just over one of the nearby hills. Colt jogged over while carefully avoiding the aggro range of any packs that were in his way. Once the new players came into view, Colt's jaw went slack in shock. 5 players were fighting it out against each other while defending against 2 different wolf packs. Colt took a moment to watch the fight and try to understand what was going on. These players should have arrived just recently, so how did they manage to get into a fight already? Beans. Behind you. The player called Donna the Great shouted as she blocked a punch aimed for her face. Beans Ntoa's T spun on her heel to deliver a kick to the side of a wolf's jaw as it pounced at her. The situation on the hill slope was chaotic. 9 wolves were remaining while a group of 3 ganged up on a party of 2. Just die already. The man who had tried to punch Donna shouted as he attempted to grab her. Go to hell. Donna retaliated angrily as she drove her fist into the man's gut. As he was pushed back by the blow, his teammate threw a knife at Donna while she was distracted. It was clear to Colt that the attack had dealt damage from Donna's reaction, but he still could not understand anything from this short exchange. Why don't you guys just go fight somewhere else? Beans shouted as she prevented another wolf from attacking Donna. Ha! Why would we? By the time we kill you that pack, your fighting will be weakened enough to be easy pickings. Plus, don't you know that you can absorb the stats of other players when they die? This is the perfect chance to grab some free points. The woman in the back of the group of 3 shouted. Colt's eyes narrowed when he heard this. None of the 5 had spotted him yet, but he was really pissed that this group of 3 were already trying to PK in the game. He had already experienced what it was like to get ambushed in this game, and he disapproved of it while the game was still in its beta test. He was a firm believer in initially working together to get the lay of the land whenever a new game was released. PKing was fine if you used it for your streaming channel to keep your viewers entertained. But that was not possible during the beta. Before Colt knew what he was doing, his feet had already begun to move on their own. Beans and Toast had just recovered from punching a wolf when another tried to take a bite of her. She cursed under her breath as she prepared herself to take some damage. At that point, Colt had arrived on the field of battle without any of the players noticing. He drove forward and uppercut the wolf who was about to bite Beans, forcing its jaws shut prematurely. Colt spun his axe overhead to strike the wolf in its eye, dealing the final points of damage to its HP. Beans was stunned as she stared at Colt's avatar. For one thing, he was the only player that she had seen that appeared to be fully kitted out. Everyone else that she had seen in Valheim was still wearing the starter rags and maybe one or two pieces of something different. She had no idea who this guy was, but she would not complain about him helping them. The expressions of the other group became dark when they realized an unknown player had gotten himself involved with their fight. However, seeing his equipment made them drool with greed. "Help your friend. I'll keep these guys busy," Colt shouted as he blocked one wolf with his shield and slashed at another. Beans nodded her head in awe. Colt's movements appeared fluid as if he were used to fighting in games. Beans doubted that she would have been able to stop that joint attack if it were her. "I better invite him to the party." Chapter 25. First party. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Player Beans and Toast has invited you to a party. Do you accept? Colt raised an eyebrow at what the woman had chosen for her gamer tag, but who was he to judge? Yes. There was a strange feeling as Colt was suddenly able to roughly sense how much HP Beans and Toast and Donna the Great had left. Even though he was not given the exact numbers, he could feel that both women had already lost half of their HP bars. The other guys should be in better condition. Colt frowned as he exchanged a flurry of rapid blows with three wolves. 0.2 HP, 0.2 HP, you have dealt. Two of the wolves died during the exchange. Their bodies faded away to leave some loot behind, but this was not the time to check it. The women in the party seemed to have stabilized the situation, but they were still losing HP. If this situation carried on much longer, it was almost inevitable that he would be left alone to deal with the other party and the remaining wolves. Colt decided to bite the bullet and use up his remaining DP. Colt activated his campfire spell for the first time. A warm golden fire suddenly appeared floating in the air between Colt and his party members. The sudden appearance of the warm, flaming orb caught the other players off guard as they paused their fights to glance at it warily. However, Beans and Donna soon burst out smiling when they realized that the fire carried a healing effect. Colt turned his attention back to the remaining two wolves on their side of the battle. These wolves seemed to be wary of the fire burning behind Colt, which surprised him. However, this did not stop him from taking advantage of the situation. Colt took 2 steps forward and put his weight into his shield as he bashed one wolf on the snout to temporarily stun it. While it was shaken, he quickly set about exchanging attacks with the other one. The wolf howled as Colt smashed the side of its head several times using his axe and shield rotation. Just as the wolf let out a pitiful death howl, Colt's campfire spell wore off. Still, it had proven to be effective in healing the whole party. The members of the other group had ugly expressions on their faces now. Colt was moments away from killing his last wolf, which would leave him free to join the others. At the same time, their party still had 4 wolves left. The woman who was restraining the wolves was struggling to do any damage. They had planned to quickly kill Donna and Beans before working together to steal their kills. Needless to say, they were beginning to consider making a run for it. But the wolves that had them surrounded would never let them get away. They could only grit their teeth and fight harder in the hopes they could kill the women before Colt managed to join them. However, it was not meant to be as they heard the dreaded sound of a wolf dying. The men cursed as they glanced in Colt's direction, and sure enough, he was already racing towards them. Donna and Beans were glad for the backup as they heaved sighs of relief. Colt joining the battle soon turned it in their favor. As the woman in the back saw that her party was going to lose, she decided to try and make a run for it. Her partner's expressions sank for a moment at her abandoning them, but they soon gloated as the remaining wolves chased her down. Colt exchanged blows with the man using knives while the women worked together to fight the other one. The man grimaced as he struck Colt's shield and failed to do any damage. Colt hacked at the man's arm with his axe before slipping the man with his shield. Colt's opponent groaned as he tried to retaliate with a lunge, but Colt trapped his arm between his shield and the side of his body. The man looked like he wanted to say something, but Colt head-butted him before burying his axe in the player's head. The player had a defiant look in his eyes as his body turned into motes of light. At the same time, the women finished off their opponent. As the bodies faded away, Colt stared at the divine orb in front of him. He did not wait for the others to say anything and immediately chose to absorb the player's divinity for himself. You have permanently received +2 authority, +1 strength, +2 endurance, authority increase detected. Awarding +2 DP, please choose 2 spells, Divine, Minor Grace. Grants a divine protective barrier for 20% of target's health. Cost: 1 DP, Divine, Minor Divine Arrow. Fast-moving Golden Arrow. Damage and cost equal to user's authority up to 10 maximum. Hearth, Bonfire. Creates a divine bonfire that radiates a healing aura over 15 m. Heals followers/party members for 3 HP per second for 5 seconds. Cost: for DP, Colt frowned as he read the notification. It was evident that the bonfire spell was a much better version of campfire. Not only that, but it was the only spell that was related to his divine speciality. Colt groaned slightly as he knew that the healing magic would be appreciated a lot more in a party. Especially if they managed to find something like a dungeon in the game. Colt grit his teeth and chose the bonfire spell first. Followed by Minor Grace. He would have liked to have gained an offensive type spell, but the Minor Divine Arrow spell would drain all of his DP no matter when he used it. Hey! Thanks for your help. Beans shouted as she started to walk towards Colt. It seemed like she wanted to have a proper conversation with him while Donna absorbed the divine orb that had dropped from their opponent. Colt was about to reply, but something caught his eye a few hills away. Colt grinned savagely as he sprang into action, racing off without saying anything in response to Beans. Chapter 26. Compensation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Colt had already crossed half the distance between himself and the woman who escaped before she realized that she had a new problem. The wolves had been hounding her during the entire time she had been running from the battlefield. She had thought that she would get away in time. Colt roared as he reached the nearest wolf and slapped its jaws aside as it tried to take a chunk out of him. The woman looked ecstatic as the wolves turned their attention on Colt instead. She turned to make a sprint for it. There was no way that he would be able to catch her while he was dealing with the pack. A shiver ran down her spine for a moment, forcing her to glance back. Damn! She ducked just in time as Colt's axe passed where her neck had been. The sudden ducking movement threw her off balance as she turned it into a roll instead. Colt smiled smugly as he shield bashed another wolf while viciously kicking out at her. The woman grunted as his foot connected with her abdomen. However, the blow dealt no damage and just gave her a shock from the suddenness of it. Wait. We don't need to fight. I just went along with those guys. There's no need for any grief between us. The woman yelled frantically as she kept glancing behind Colt. Usually, I'd agree, but she definitely seemed to get along well with those other two. If I leave her alone, then the 3 of them may ambush me later. It's better to weaken her now. Colt had also picked up on the fact she kept looking behind him. Which meant that Beans and Donna were most likely on their way over to them. Colt activated Minor Grace to give himself a health shield worth 7 HP. It would have been a waste to heal himself since he was not far off of having a full health bar anyway. Colt dove forward and slashed with his axe in an obvious manner, which the woman dodged easily, but she had fallen for his feint. Colt's shield met her gut as she was focused on the axe, causing her to double over. You have dealt .2 HP, Colt raised an eyebrow as he digested the combat information. From the damage number, he could figure out that the woman had an endurance rating of 4 at least. Colt chuckled to himself lightly as he proceeded to bash her again. She was doing her best to avoid his axe, but Colt now knew that he would not be able to deal any damage to her with it. The woman was so panicked that she probably was not thinking clearly, which led to one mistake after another. Her head exploded into motes of light as Colt dealt the finishing blow. At the same time, he heard fighting going on behind him. The sounds of wolves dying one after the other entered his ears as the player's divine orb appeared. L.C. Hey, Beans. She's dead. He actually managed to do it. Donna chuckled as she walked up behind Colt. Isn't that great? Now you get one too. Serves them right, Beans chuckled as she followed a short distance behind her friend. I can't wait to absorb. What? The two women looked on in shock as Colt absorbed the orb first without saying anything. He eagerly waited to see what he would gain from it. You have permanently received +2 strength, +3 endurance, congratulations. More than 20 points of divinity have been detected. You have reached level 3. Hey! What's the deal? Why didn't you leave that orb for Beans? Donna stormed towards Colt with an angry expression on her face. What's there to say? Did you help to kill her? Would you have killed her if I didn't involve myself? Colt replied with a carefree tone and a shrug. Take it as my compensation for turning those players into enemies. I doubt they'll let me off the hook if they see me again. Donna frowned at his reply. It made a lot of sense, but well, it would have been better for them if Beans absorbed it. That way, they would have an easier time grinding for levels. After all, it was not like Colt was likely to hang around and help them. Donna, it's fine. Beans interrupted her before she said anything else. She knew what Donna's personality was like. Thanks for your help. I'm Beans and Toa's tea. Beans is fine. This is my friend and fellow streamer, Donna the Great. Colt studied Beans' expression for a moment and realized that she really was not angry. Her short brown hair contrasted with her bright blue eyes as she stared at him. She was one of those regular girls that seemed to have a friendly personality, which made her appear more attractive than she really was. Colt's eyes then fell on Donna. Her black hair fell down to her waist and framed her tanned face quite nicely. Her waistline was slightly slim for Colt's liking, but she made up for it in the chest area. It was just a shame that Colt was not much of a chest person either. I'm Exile, Colt replied after a brief pause. Are there any other players here already? He was definitely curious as to how the situation in Valheim had progressed. Since he had quickly run into 5 players, that told him that quite a few people must have ascended not long after him. There's a few. Maybe around 60. Beans tapped her chin as she tried to figure out the exact number while Donna glared at Colt. But you should already know that, right? No. There was nobody else in the city when I arrived. Colt sighed, and the two women gasped. Doesn't that mean you were the first player to ascend? Wait. You absorbed 2 orbs, right? So, aren't you already level 3? Donna suddenly cut in excitedly. Colt raised an eyebrow at the question before nodding to confirm it. Donna seemed to have something in mind as she stared at him with a glint in her eyes. Chapter 27. Noobs. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Okay, how about this? You stick with us, and we'll give you the largest share of kills and drops. Donna began with a smirk. In return, you have to sell our items for us and buy us new equipment. Sounds good, right? And who am I meant to sell our items to? If you haven't noticed, there's no NPCs in the city. Colt frowned as he glanced at the two women. You don't know. Donna's surprise was evident on her face. I thought you would have found them since you were the first one to arrive here. What she means is a lot of players work together to explore the city's area close to the arrival point. Most were buildings that could be bought, but one of the groups found a store. The problem is that you can't open the door without being level 3. Beans cut in to explain the situation. Colt raised an eyebrow at this piece of information. Does that mean there are NPCs hidden in the city? This information seemed to contradict everything that he had observed about the Divine Realm so far, but it intrigued him. Still, setting a level limit on entering the store. It seems like another thing meant to push people towards killing each other to level up quickly. Colt thought he began to see the bigger picture of this game. Everything so far seemed designed to incite conflict among the players. For one thing, at some point, they would have to fight over followers. There was bound to be only a limited amount of NPCs. Then, there was the fact that it was easier to gain stat points by taking them from someone else. The only problem with that was that you did not get to choose where to invest them. Which meant that taking this route could leave you with a build unsuitable to your style. It's not some casual RPG game that anyone can enjoy. Colt frowned as he considered the implications of that. After all, he intended to gather information to sell to the companies and players who would enter the game during its public release. However, most of the players who were willing to spend money on the game usually did not have much skill. They just liked the attention that they gained from possessing the best that the game had to offer. However, the deal that the two women offered him just now was a good one for him. That's fine. But I need to recover my health and DP first. Colt told a half-lie here. His HP was fine for now, but he felt a little uncomfortable with his DP running low. He was hoping that since the women knew about a store, maybe they knew how to regenerate these things. He had a feeling that if he asked for the information that Donna would try to exploit him. That's fine. We're a little low as well. Why don't we all head to the temple together? Beans immediately replied while Donna frowned. Colt smiled as he agreed with her. Along the way, they killed quite a few wolves by working together. They held up their end of the deal and allowed Colt to strike the finishing blow on most of them. They had made this offer in the first place because only the person who dealt the last strike would gain a point into the milestone. Colt guessed that this was to prevent people from boosting low-level players. Milestone reached. Awarding +1 stat point, Wolf Slayer. 20/40ths, it looks like the milestone goals double each time you complete it. Colt frowned as he began to understand how difficult it would become to gain stat points later on. Anyway, I'll just increase my authority again. Authority increase detected. Awarding +1 DP, please choose one spell, Divine, Minor Luck. Grants a 10% chance of gaining an extra item from all scenarios for 10 minutes. Cost. 2 DP, Divine, Minor Divine Arrow. Fast-moving Golden Arrow. Damage and cost equal to user's authority up to 10 maximum. Hearth, Fire. Manifest your divinity to create a 10m area around you. Allies in this zone benefit from a stat boost to endurance equal to 25% of your authority, rounded down to the nearest whole number. Duration. 5 minutes cost. 2 DP, Colt groaned when he read over the spells offered. Minor Luck looked like it was very situational and would be useless most of the time. There was no need to even consider Minor Divine Arrow. Fire it is. Colt swore as he picked the spell. He felt like he was going down the path of a support/healer player. Which was not his style at all. However, there was nothing that he could do about it. It was just the choices presented to him. Maybe I should search some information on Gods of the Hearth. It might shed some light on what to expect. Yo. What you spacing out for? Donna asked as she finished collecting the loot of the latest wolves. Ah, nothing, I just gained a new spell. Colt hummed as he considered how useful it might be. A spell? How'd you get that? Beans asked with an innocent face. Colt's jaw dropped in shock. How could they not know? The interface had the information on each stat and what it does. Besides, even though they were streamers, they should make money from gaming. Otherwise, they would not be here. How do you not know that? Anyone who's played an RPM would be able to work it out. Colt blurted out. Oh, that explains it then. Donna smiled as she jumped in. This is our first RPG. We usually play shooters. Colt almost fainted when he heard their answer. Oh God, I'm stuck with total noobs. Shooter games these days were highly realistic and relied on a player's actual skill with no way to artificially increase what you are capable of through stats or anything. I guess I better fill them in. Chapter 28. Jarxos, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Colt filled them in on the basic mechanics as they wandered towards and into Valheim. He did not share everything that he had learned but enough for the girls to understand the importance of authority. The girls were quite happy with the information. Which, of course, was natural. Since they had lied about not playing RPGs. It was just that they usually played warriors or other physical classes. They just wanted to understand if authority might be helpful to them. The best way to get some information was usually to pretend to be a noob. Especially if you were a girl. Oh, this way. Beans chuckled as Colt was about to walk past the street that they had to turn into. Colt chuckled and shrugged it off as being too caught up in their conversation. Which the girls seemed to accept. After a few minutes of walking, a small temple building came into sight. I guess this is where we can regenerate our bars. Colt raised an eyebrow as he committed it to memory. Hey! Did you hear that Callion's team was ambushed and wiped out while hunting wolves? Colt listened to the random discussions of those who were leaving the temple. It seemed like word had already spread of what had happened, but the other side had twisted the narrative to suit themselves. Hopefully, it doesn't become a big deal. Colt frowned as they entered the temple. There were 5 pedestals spread out around the room inside. 3 of them were empty, while another 2 had statues that resembled the player standing in front of them. Beans and Donna immediately moved to an empty pedestal, and a figure of each of them rose from their pedestals. Colt followed their example and found himself face to face with a miniature marble version of himself. Connecting with prayers in the mortal realm. You currently have 15 stored prayers. Please adjust how many you would like to absorb. HP equals 0/1, DP equals 0/4, okay, it's just like the shrine in Iraldsfen. I have to spend the prayers that people made to recover. I guess this place allows a player to access every shrine's prayers and gather them in one place. But this mechanic is going to make things difficult. The further you travel from the city, the harder it will be to recover and survive. Players will have to plan out how much HP and DP they need to reserve for a safe journey back. Colt frowned at these thoughts as he spent 5 prayers to fully recover. Bringing his HP and DP back up to full. No quests detected. Exiting shrine interface, the girls seemed to be finished too, but their expressions were not all that great. Colt sensed that neither of them had fully recovered, which probably meant Thatchy did not have enough prayers. To be fair, if I had taken more damage, I wouldn't have been able to fully recover either. Colt sighed. To make their grinding more effective later on, he was sure that he would have to spend his DP to help them recover. Maybe my spells aren't that bad after all. Colt's mind wandered to how many prayers he could save by exchanging his DP for HP, bringing the overall cost down significantly. Shall we head the store now? Beans asked when she saw that Colt was finished. Sure, I'm done here, Colt replied while noticing the other 2 players in the temple looking at them with strange expressions. Colt casually checked behind them a few times as they navigated the streets under Donna's lead. Sure enough, one of the players from the temple was following closely behind them. He was not even bothering to hide the fact that he was tailing them. "This is it," Donna suddenly said as she stopped in front of a small, unassuming building with golden doors. There was a sign above them that had a word that he could not read on it. But the word store was clear beneath it. "Where are the items you want me to sell?" Colt asked with a raised eyebrow. "Player Donna the Great has initiated a trade with you. Do you accept?" Colt accepted the request and a window appeared in his mind. He quickly checked the contents and accepted the trade. 15 wolf furs and 18 wolf fangs entered his inventory. He had to make sure and not make a mistake when it came to splitting the money later. Colt stepped forward and touched the doors of the store. "Player check initiated. Player level 3. Welcome." The door slowly swung open, but there was a green translucent barrier in its place. "I guess this to prevent anyone else from sneaking in while it's open." Colt hesitantly stepped through the barrier. There was a green orb floating close to the ceiling, lighting up the store's interior. Marble shelves had display cases lined up on them. However, they were all empty. A staircase stood to his right with another green barrier blocking it. This one appeared more solid, and Colt guessed that it was meant for higher levels. "I should focus on finding out how this place works." Colt walked towards the counter up ahead, but he could not see anyone. What the hell is going on here? Colt wondered as he continued to glance around. Suddenly, an old man wearing a toga appeared behind the counter. However, he was made entirely of translucent golden light, making him appear ethereal. "Oh, a customer. It's been such a long time. Welcome. How can I help you?" the man asked as he eyed Colt. "Can you tell me who you are? What do you sell here?" Colt asked in the hopes of gaining some information. "I'm Jarxos. And this, well, was my store. I'm nothing more than a will left behind after the fall." Jarxos showed a sad smile. Colt frowned as he realized from the explanation that he was not dealing with a fully thinking NPC. This one was more like a recording that could only respond to certain things. What's the fall? Chapter 29. Rival. You are listening at novelfull.audio. "I'm afraid I don't have that information," Jarxos replied with a sly smile. Colt felt like the recording of what he assumed to be an old god knew more than he was letting on. However, there would be no point in pressing him for the information if he was not willing to share it. "Okay, so what are you selling? Your shelves look empty." Colt took his time in looking around to emphasize his point. "Well, it depends. Do you have anything to sell?" Jarxos flashed a cunning grin. "Oh, his stock comes from the players. Wait. Does this replace the usual auction houses in some way?" If that was correct, then he had discovered a new major piece of information. Auction houses were a good way of getting your items out to be viewed by many people quickly and overcharge for them. Did this mean the developers wanted to curb this behavior? Or was there more to it? With all the buildings for sale, I think it's safe to assume you can have a store. Since we're gods, is it to give craft types a chance to display their power? Forcing people to travel to their store. Colt frowned and initiated a trade with Jarxos, putting all of the wolf items in on his end. These are very basic items." Jarxos sighed as if he were disappointed. "They're worth 3 gold in total. Donna and Bean's share was worth 2 gold while his was worth 1 gold. That either meant that the materials were close to worthless, or gold would be hard to earn. He accepted the trade for now since there was nothing he could do to change the price. "Alright, thank you for your custom." A wolf fang and a piece of wolf fur appeared in different cases on the shelf behind Jarxos. "Since you're my first customer in centuries, I wonder if you would be willing to make a deal." Colt immediately became wary. Most people would be excited if they uncovered a hidden bonus or first-person benefit. However, Colt knew that these things could end up bringing nothing but grief down on a player due to the jealousy that usually accompanied it. What kind of deal are we talking about? Colt raised an eyebrow. I have here a map that leads to the final resting place of one of my old friends. How about you recover anything that she left behind and sell it to me so I can get some decent stuff on my shelves? Jarxos seemed pretty confident that he could find some decent things in that location. Colt thought about it for a moment. It did not seem like a bad deal, nor could he see how it could cause problems. He basically just wants to get his store up and running again. It'll actually benefit other players. Sure, I'll do it, Colt replied after some consideration. Great. Here, take this. Jarxos held out an old piece of parchment which Colt accepted. New quest. Tomb of Olivia, description. Explore the Tomb of Olivia, goddess of the first flame, and retrieve her legacy. Rewards. +5 stat points for all party members, hidden reward. Colt's eyes narrowed like a hawk's as he read the quest description. The hidden reward did not say it was available to everyone in the party, which probably meant only one person could claim it. However, he was intrigued by the idea of retrieving a god's legacy. It should be something good, right? Since Jarxos seemed to have nothing else to say right now, Colt decided to take his leave. Out of curiosity, he decided to touch the barrier protecting the staircase on the way past. You must be level 5 to enter this area, Colt smiled as he confirmed his earlier hypothesis. I wonder if there's some kind of bonus for each floor. As he opened the door and stepped out onto the street, Colt's expression froze. The two men from the temple were with a woman he had never seen before. However, they were blocking the exit while keeping an eye on Beans and Donna. So, you're the first player to enter the store, are you? The woman in the group stepped forward. I'm Eri. Colt's eyes narrowed when he heard her introduce herself by her gamertag. It just so happened to be one that he was familiar with. Eri. As in the team captain of Kaleidoscope. Oh. You know me. Eri seemed surprised. She did not recognize the avatar in front of her. Sure, your team beat Camelot to take Mayhem's championship title last season. Colt brushed it off by explaining it off as if he had watched it. When in reality, her team's victory cost him his job. What are you doing in Pantheon, though? Well, since you know who I represent, it should be obvious, right? We're checking the game out to see if it's worth investing our time in it. Eri smiled as she stared at him curiously. Now, let's get real for a moment. I'd like you to tell us what's in the store. Oh, and sell us whatever bonus you got for entering it first. Eri's smile appeared sweet, but Colt felt sick seeing it. She seemed confident that he had gained a bonus which made him think that her team had already uncovered something similar. There's nothing in the store. It just sells whatever the players sell to it. Colt shrugged his shoulders as if it were no big secret. And the bonus? Eri's eyes narrowed when Colt did not respond to that part. Colt just smiled as if he had no clue what she was talking about. Eri studied him for a few moments before showing a slight smile as her cheek twitched. I guess you have nothing else to offer then. Oh well. Thanks for the information then anyway. Beans waited until Eri and the two men disappeared before turning to Colt. Why were you acting so weird with her? Because. She's going to try and kill us to see what we got. Chapter 30. Old tricks. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yeah, we did. However, I don't know how difficult it will be. We might need a full party, or us three could be enough. Colt explained as he led the two women towards the gates. The problem is, I don't really know anyone else here well enough to invite them to join us. What about you guys? I know a few other streamers, but... Beans hesitated to continue with her reply. I might know one or two. However, I haven't seen them here. I just knew they were joining the game, but they might have chosen a different race. Donna gave her own reply with a frustrated expression. Colt nodded his head as he knew that this could be a problem. I'm guessing Eri probably told the team to choose the human race if there was a race selection so that they could all be together. They wouldn't have been able to plan out something else without knowing what was available. He had to admit that Eri had been smart about it. Colt did not doubt that there was probably a few people who were tempted to choose something else. But when you were part of a team, you had to go with what was best for the team as well as the company supporting it. That was about the complaint he had about his old job. Colt led them to an empty snowy hill before taking out the parchment he had received from Jarxos. Donna and Beans had curious expressions on their faces as he unrolled it to see what information it held. It turned out to be a very basic-looking map. It showed a path over the hills to the mountains ahead. Colt looked up from the map to try and judge the distance. They would have to avoid any combat on the way there to be fully prepared for whatever they may find. However, this area only seemed to have the wolf packs, which ignored the players if they kept a distance. Colt grinned as he realized that this should be easy. The only problem with the journey should be whether or not Eri decided to attack them before they reached the tomb or on the way back. She'll probably have someone follow us to find out where we're going. And if I were her, I'd ambush them on the return journey when they're at their weakest. Let's go take a look. Colt smiled as he led the way over the snowy hills while avoiding the wolves. It took them half a day to clear the snowy hill area and reach the base of the mountains. They stopped for a moment to recheck the map before starting the climb. The scenery was peaceful, which was making the three of them somewhat nervous. RPGs rarely had safe areas outside of the cities. If a place was quiet, it usually meant that there was an unknown danger. Colt glanced towards Valheim in the distance as they climbed further up. It looked golden with the sun shining off of all the marble. It was a fantastic sight to see, especially when its surroundings looked pristine due to the snow. We should be close. Spread out and look for anything unusual. Colt called out as he started searching around. Donna and Beans shrugged their shoulders and did as he said. They knew that he had gained something in the store, but he had refused to tell them what it was so far. You know, it'd help if we knew what we were looking for, Donna complained as she brushed her black hair behind her shoulders. Just look for anything that might be an entrance or lead to one, Colt replied calmly. They had not seen any other players the entire way here. Which meant that they did not have to rush for now. Does it even get dark here? Colt wondered after a few hours went by while finding nothing. Exile. I found something over here. Donna shouted excitedly from a spot further up from him. Colt made his way up to meet her as Beans came down from a location even higher up. Look. Doesn't this seem like it used to be stairs or a path? Donna pointed at some smooth rock sticking out from the dirt on the ground. This could be it. Have a look around and see if we can find any more. We have to find out where it leads to. Colt replied with a serious face as he took a look at it. Oh. There's a whole section of it up there. I didn't think much of it because it didn't seem to lead anywhere. Beans cut in with a red face from embarrassment. You should have said something. Donna admonished her friend, saving Colt from the hassle. Forget it, let's just go. Colt waved a hand as if it were no big deal. Beans led them up to the spot that she had found earlier. Sure enough, they found more smooth patches that could have been a buried staircase along the way. Colt raised an eyebrow as he saw the smooth disc-like platform with some rubble on it. It's definitely not natural. He became excited as he ran his hands over the surface. After years of playing Mayhem, which was made by the same developers, he knew what he was looking at. That game had something similar, and it seemed like they had reused it here. He had to move several pieces of rubble before he found what he was looking for. Guys, get ready. Colt grinned as he slid his finger inside of a hole. There was a button not far inside of it, and Colt did not hesitate to press it. The sound of stone grinding on stone entered their ears, making them wince in discomfort. The platform slowly opened up towards the sky as if it were a pair of doors, revealing a marble staircase spiraling downwards. Colt glanced into the empty space that went all the way to the bottom in the center. However, it was too dark to see how far the staircase went down. "Let's go,"